Welcome back to the latest edition of Business Boost Academy. I am very happy to say today I've got a gentleman with me who's become a bit of a friend. I've got to know him again through networking, Spencer Thomson. And Spencer has had a very diverse career, a very interesting career, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. Spencer, how are you doing, my friend?
I am absolutely outstanding. How's yourself and how's all our listeners and watchers? I hope you're all doing amazing today as well.
I hope so too. I hope so too. Right, so Spencer, let's talk about how it all started.
Oh,
So your what how you got into your career, what exactly happened, and then how did you get to where you got to right now?
I thought you meant the Big Bang. I was like, that's 14.2 billion years ago or something like that. Apparently, I have no
Yeah.
idea. Right? Okay, cool. So a career. Oh, plotted history. I actually started working at 14 when I was at school. I started a little part-time job that lasted exactly 3 years, working as solicitors. And I love, by the way, best employed job ever was when I was still at school.
Yeah.
Because you got paid cash in hand, you didn't pay tax, didn't pay national insurance, and you just got on with it. Amazing, amazing. I was trusted with tens of thousands of pounds back in the old days. So, working career started there. I confess I was not gifted with the highest level of education in terms of I wasn't very academic, so I left school a year earlier than some did. Thought I couldn't go to university, so I started my working career at age 17. And your traditional, I say that now, high street bank. For those that don't know, in the old days, there used to be banks in high streets. Nowadays, they don't really exist, okay? But there used to be banks in the high streets. So started there as a cashier and worked my way up the corporate ladder. I had a great work ethic. I moved on to account management quite quickly. So you come in for a loan or a bank account, that sort of thing. Then did some mortgage stuff. Embarrassing. I did my first mortgage in 1993. And yeah, I didn't buy
Wow.
my first house until 1994. That really does age me. Um, then went on to investments, pensions, into management, senior management, project management, and I climbed the corporate ladder. Maybe some people can relate to this, but I climbed the corporate ladder, did all the right things, worked all the extra hours without the extra pay, knowing that you get the pay rises, and then got so far up the ladder that I realized, I'll have to be delicate how I say this, I was getting closer to the bird that poops all of the time. Those employed could probably relate to this, okay? When you're further down, if you've got good managers, they've spread their wings and the poop doesn't come down on you as quite as much. But as you get higher up, you're closer to the bird's bottom. And I realized that my wings weren't big enough to protect all my staff. Politics, all the rest of it, I decided, no, had enough. And I went self-employed back in 2004. So that
Wow.
was my first venture into the world of self-employment. Became a mortgage broker. I thought, great, no politics, don't have to worry about stuff other than your customer. And I'd always had this view that you look after the customers, everything else falls into place. Unfortunately, in high street banking, it was more about politics in the end than it was looking after the customer. Hence the reason things have happened in banking the way that they have. So started that, then got involved in a second business 18 months later, and I'm here today. So that's kind of a plotted history. Went up the corporate ladder, climbed the wrong ladder, or it was against the wrong wall, is the way I look at it, and then
Mm.
realized I was really an employee. Sorry, I was a self-employed person in an employee's body in my
Yeah.
20s. I think that would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah. So you obviously went through that period, and I think you're quite modest in to say that you were actually quite a successful mortgage broker at the time, weren't you? You did all right.
I
You did all
did,
right.
did very well, to be fair, yeah.
And then what happened that opened your eyes to network marketing?
So, open mind. I've always had an open mind. I happen to be in the right place at the right time with the right mindset. And for our listeners, that's so important that you understand that. Opportunities pass you by all the time, but if your mind is closed, it's a bit like a parachute. You know, if you're going to jump out of a plane, you want to hope that parachute opens up, otherwise you're going to die, okay? Your mind has to be like that parachute. It has to be open. So I was in my office with my business partner. Two gentlemen came in, spoke to my business partner. One knew my business partner, the other didn't. I'm in the room. I've got big ears. For those that can see that, those that can't, I have got big ears, okay? And I listened in and I was intrigued to find out this model of network marketing and how you can get a product or a service to the consumer without the traditional form of advertising. And therefore, the company wins because it only pays on results. But the person who does the work actually gets rewarded. Instead of all the fat cats keeping all the money like most corporate structures, it's the person who actually does the work gets rewarded. I went, oh, wow, I've been looking for this my entire life. I just didn't even know this industry existed. So I was just in the right place, the right time, the right mindset. And that was almost, as we record this, 20 years to the very day.
Yeah. So was it were they part of UW themselves at that particular point, or
Yes.
were they part of a different franchise, a
Yeah,
particular
yeah, no, no.
section?
I've never been involved. I've had other people approach me and understand why, but no, it's always been UW
Yeah.
right from the very beginning. I'm very blessed because it is the biggest network marketing company in the United Kingdom. In fact, if you look globally, it's the ninth largest network marketing organization in the world, and we only
Mm.
operate in the UK.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about UW, because a lot of people who are watching this will do a lot of networking. They'll know a lot of UW partners. Now, as I understand it, there are two ways you can run a network marketing model. Do you want to just run through those two ways, and how did you sort of evolve down the path that you went down?
So at the end of the day, a network marketing organization exists to get a product or a service to the consumer, as I said, without any advertising. That way it can keep its costs down. So ultimately it needs people to communicate to their network, hence it's called network marketing, okay, to
Mm.
their network, because we all know intrinsically, if you go back lots of years, there was no advertising. You go back, I don't know, in the 80, 90 years ago, there was no advertising. There was no billboards, there was no radio adverts, there was no TV adverts, there was no Google ads and blah, Facebook ads and all that. It didn't exist. It was somebody told somebody else, you should go see this, do that, whatever it is. So we intrinsically know that if someone tells you about something and you trust that person, then you're going to go, well, that's maybe something worth looking at. And that's why it kind of it goes into that no like trust factor. Okay. So it's got to get the product or the service to the consumers. And that's what most people do is in our case, ours is service based. So it's, saving on energy, broadband, mobile phones, even insurance and getting cash back on all of your shopping, whether online, high street, doesn't really matter. So they need the customer clearly in order to make profit. It is a business at the end of the day, but it just happens to be able to do it less than they're paying with other companies. So they need people to gather customers, otherwise they have no organization. And we've got, as we stand, about 1.3 million customers to date. So I started by, well, I can tell my friends, stop, hold on, let's look at my own bill. Now you've got to bear in mind I was a financial advisor, mortgage broker, bank manager, done those roles. So I'm good with numbers. So I looked at the numbers and went, can I save myself money? And the answer was yes. So I was naturally going to tell other people, regardless if I got paid or not, I was going to tell others you can save money because let's be honest, especially in the climate we're in now, there's no point in wasting money because you can redirect that spend to something worthwhile instead. Whereas nowadays, that worthwhile could be putting food on the table. It could actually
Yeah.
be paying the bills. It could be repaying that credit card that you've been promising to repay for years and years and years. That money could be used elsewhere. So we need to gather the customers. And that's what I did. I was like told people and so on and so forth. But I also said to some people that I knew, you could do this. I mean, I'm a nobody. I'm just insignificant. I'm just an ordinary everyday person. Quite, and people don't believe this, but I'm a shy, introverted person. With that short, Spencer, really? Yeah, I got
Okay.
bullied in primary school. Okay, and
Yeah.
and because of that, it has psychological impacts and so on and so forth. So I was the shy, quiet introvert. I thought if I could do it, anybody can do it because you learn along the way so much stuff. We'll maybe talk about that a little bit later on. So I started to tell some people, you can make something from this as well. And I started to build a team as well. And originally, I started more focusing on helping people save money on their bills, which is absolutely fantastic. Then I started to really concentrate on helping people build a secondary income. The best analogy I can give you in network marketing is the expression is if you give someone a fish, you'll feed them for that day. You teach them how to fish, you feed them for life.
Mhm.
What flipped in my mind at some point was you're doing the right thing because you want to make an impact to other people. I've been doing it since I was 18 years old, helping people with their finances one way or another. But saving people money just on their bills will be just giving them that fish for the day, whereas if I actually teach them the skills, it will feed them for an eternity. Which is better of the two? And it took that because I didn't have the confidence, I didn't have the experience. It took a while to transition. And, I still help people to this very day save money on their bills. But my focus is on developing the people to build the skill sets themselves. So you can be, it's like rowing. If you were in a boat, you've got oars. Yep. If you just use the left oar, which is just gathering customers, all that would happen is your boat would go in circles.
Hmm.
And if you just gather team members, guess what? It's going to go in the other circle. So you kind of need to do a bit of both until you've got to such a point that it automatically goes forward.
Was there a moment, Spencer, when it kind of like dawned on you that actually this is the route that you were going to go down? Or was it a conversation that you had with a mentor? What was the moment where you sat there and thought, okay, I can feed somebody for a day by providing them with a fish, but if I teach them to fish, I can feed them for a lifetime. Was there a moment where you sat there and you thought, do you know what? Actually, I need to change the direction I'm going in.
No, I'm actually trying to think. I'll be honest with you. I think it's a gradual process. I think, again, if you go to like confidence, as you start helping some more people realizing their goals and their dreams and their ambitions, it boosts up your confidence level in your own ability that you are helping somebody else. I wasn't born gifted with utter amazing confidence that, you know what, this is the, I knew it was the right thing for me. And I knew it'd be the right thing for other people, but I didn't know if I had the ability to coach and develop other people to be the stars that they could be. Along the way, as you start getting little, like, I don't know, like a checkbox or whatever, you go tick, tick, tick. Psychologically, it's happening and you don't realize. And before you know it, and suddenly you're like, well, yeah, this just works. It's like, have you ever had frog's legs out of curiosity?
No, I haven't.
Nor have I. Okay, but allegedly, this is how they cook them. Okay, they put them in a pan of water, cold water. The pan lid is not on; it's just completely open. The frog is alive. Okay, and what they do is they keep turning the heat up, and eventually they boil the frog alive. But the
Right.
frog always had the opportunity to get out of that pan of water. But because the water just keeps turning and turning and turning until it doesn't realize it's getting warmer and warmer and warmer. And to a certain extent, that's what happened with me in the business is like, actually, I can have a bigger impact than I thought. And it built my confidence. The number one reason I get network marketing, the personal development, how it
Mhm.
changes you as a person. The money, byproduct. How it changes you as a person, completely different, and therefore the impact you have on others. That would be a key message I would say to people.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that as well because obviously, I know you well, and I know you well. It's certainly well enough to know that you've the success you've had within the UW business. Um, but it's interesting. Money's not your driver, and it's very clear that money isn't your driver. And I think that's the thing with a lot of successful people. It's not the money that makes the money's a byproduct, and it's not something that most people focus upon. They just know they want to continue doing what they're doing and they enjoy doing what they're doing. Going back to what you said about the analogy that you said about when you rose up the corporate ladder and
Yep.
you had your wings out but your wings weren't big enough. You develop your team,
Yes.
and actually you sound as though when you were working in the banking sector in the corporate world you wanted to develop your team but you weren't able to protect them from all of the crap that gets flung at them from that perspective. um, have you utilized this, I suppose, the leadership and the training and the coaching skills that you got in there? How has that shaped what you do with UW?
It's interesting because when I was in banking, I was a manager. In network marketing, I'm a leader. Two fundamentally different things.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Because in the corporate structure, I'm the one with it says manager on the title, okay? But even when I was doing that, because I literally started as a cashier and I'd worked my way up, I earned brownie points along the way with those that would go, well, to be fair, he's not just flowing in and he's thinks he knows everything. He's literally gone through most of the ranks along the way. So I had a little bit of kudos. And again, I was a relatively young manager. People or significantly older than me that I was managing. So I kind of had that little bit. I didn't use my manager title to say, you must do this, you must do that, you must do this, which is what a lot of managers do. I've got the title, you will do what I say. I was always trying to encourage people and be more of like a leader. That's what a leader is. A leader encourages people to grow and to develop, to show them the future of what's possible and give them that encouragement.
Hmm.
Kind of figured that out because maybe again it's the lack of confidence that I had in myself when I was younger. I am young. These people are older than me. They should know other things and so on and so forth. So there's a difference between leadership and management. You can't, in this business, completely voluntary. People have got all sorts of different types of jobs. We've got people who are former pilots, former solicitors. We've got people who are, police officers, those in teaching, those in nursing, stay-at-home parents, grandparents, like every walk of life within this profession. I can't manage them. But what I
Hmm.
can do is show them the path that I've walked down. And to me, that's leadership. I've always believed in leading from the front. So anytime I'm asking anyone to do anything, I'm like, I have literally walked this path. It might be virgin snow in front of me, but I'm going to clear the path for you to come along the way. And that's kind of the difference with management. Management sometimes might be you walk the path, and if nobody kills you, I'll follow you. If
Hmm.
that makes sense.
No, no, it totally makes sense, and I think that's what makes a very good leader. A very good leader is somebody who's prepared to roll their sleeves up and do exactly what they're asking people to do. And you would never ask somebody to do something that you're not prepared to do yourself. And in my world, when I see business owners and that they're building successful businesses, the ones that are successful are the ones that lead by example, not the ones that dictate. I remember going back to doing, God, geez, my business studies A level, Spencer. My God,
Oh
that was a
gosh,
long
just
time
a
ago.
couple of years ago then.
Yeah. And I remember we had to write an essay on the difference between autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire leadership.
Mm.
And actually, I think that when I look at stuff now, I think that there should be a fourth one, because I think now what's happening is leadership is, like you say, it's about leading by example and everything. So when you're working with your team, so you've got a big team. Um, yeah. So within network marketing, people talk about downlines and everything else, and that's kind of how their network spreads out. You've got a big team. So these people, and I think people struggle to understand this, but network marketers are running their own business, right?
Yes.
They are micro business owners. Some have big businesses, some have small businesses. However, they are business owners. So as a leader, as somebody that's done that, how do you sort of work with your team to help develop them? What are the sort of things that you look for?
Oh, that's two questions actually. Let me
Go with
see.
the first one and then
Let,
go into the second one.
let me see if I can remember both of them at the same time. I'm a man, I can't multitask. So, how do I work with them? It's identifying those who truly have a desire to move forward. One of the biggest challenges I find in our profession, okay, and I'm blessed to know lots of other people in the profession and other businesses globally, not just in the UK, is the cost to entry is so low.
Mm.
Okay. So if I think about when I started, even as a self-employed mortgage broker, I still had costs, even though I was working with someone else under his umbrella, I still had reasonable costs. In fact, you could even go, I'm going on a tangent here. You could even talk about network marketing is the little brother of franchising. Most people
Yeah.
understand franchising, okay? So if you look at the figures for franchising, the turnover in the world in franchising is allegedly 2.3 trillion US dollars.
Hmm.
Like that's thinking trillion, not million, not billion, trillion. In the UK, it's 19.1 billion pound turnover. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, to give you an idea, okay? An
Mm.
average franchise will turn over about £400,000 a year, and they employ about 770,000 people. So every time you go to a McDonald's or a KFC or a Domino's, it just have to be food, but these are just ones that people are used to. They are
Franchise. Yeah.
franchises, okay? So somebody has invested a lot of money to get involved. Now, I read that between 500,000 to 1.85 million to buy a McDonald's franchise.
Hmm.
You show me an average, everyday, ordinary person that's got that sort of capital to put into a business that's guaranteed to make you money because McDonald's makes money.
Hmm.
Let's be perfectly honest with you, okay? But then if you look at network marketing, it follows the same principle because a franchise, it's got structure, it's got the support of the organization, it's got everything that you need. It's a turnkey business. Unlike your other businesses where you've got to figure it all out, you've got no support, no nothing, you've got to figure it out. Whereas with a franchise, which is why it's so popular, you spend a lot of money to get involved. In fact, I found that the average cost in the UK is 42,200 to get a franchise. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Join our business, it's now £10 one-off cost.
Hmm.
So the problem is, if it's only £10 to join our business, some people come in with a £10 mentality. So what I'm always looking for is the people that go, well, the cost of entry was next to nothing. And we get our websites, our public liability insurance, all the training, all the support, plus people who have walked the walk, who are wanting to help you succeed for just £10. The challenge with that is, as I say, some people come on board, well, I'll give it a go. Wrong attitude.
Hmm.
Now, if they invested £42,200 in, guess what? They're going to have a much better attitude. So some people go, well, network marketing doesn't work because I know someone that did something. And well, did they really do anything? Because it was the cost of it. You and I could meet up, go for a coffee. I'd have to buy a cake between the two of us, and I might just get it for under £10, just
Yeah.
depending where we go. Because it's nothing, £10 is nothing. So I'm always looking for the people that look and go, I am blessed to be given this opportunity because the upside is huge. The upside is huge. It's a proven model where you can earn thousands of pounds nowadays right from the get-go. Not when I joined. I mean, I only made £4,500 my first year. Nowadays, I've got people earning that in the first few weeks.
Yeah.
That's the difference between our business now and 20 years ago. So I'm always looking for people who've got hunger, a passion, that have got the raw qualities of desire. I mean, I have my own acronym for the people that I'm looking for, okay? The qualities are C is the acronym's CHAMPS. C is for competitive. Now, competitive doesn't mean stepping on somebody else. It means that you want to be a better version of yourself. Okay?
Yeah.
H is helpful. All I've done my entire life is help people in one way or another through their finances. A is ambitious, does what it says on the tin. M, motivated, because you're a business owner. Whether you're in this or you're in a traditional business, if you're not motivated, you're going to make no money. Simple. The last two are the important ones. P is persistent, because many a time someone won't say yes to you to begin with, but over a period of time, they will see your wisdom and go, yes, I want that now. And
Hmm.
S is self-starter. So I'm always looking for champs.
Hmm.
Competitive, helpful, ambitious, motivated, persistent self-starters. So if I identify them in my team, and it doesn't matter where they are in my team, I will go in and work with them as much as possible, along with the other people in the team, their leaders, to bring them up to the forefront, to really, if they were a seed in the ground, okay, you would water them, okay, and that's what you're doing. You're pouring water on to help encourage the growth. And that's where a lot of people get network marketing wrong. They think the people at the top just like sit back and do nothing. The- that might be the case in other business, not in ours, because as far as I'm concerned, I couldn't care who you are, who brought you in. I know what you can get and get there much faster than me. So I'm always looking for champs in the team or for new people to join, because here's the reality. In the UK, half the working population now have more than one source of income. There was
Yeah.
an economic report done in 2023, it was. 23? Yeah, 2023 it was. Back in 2018, off the top of my head, 5 million people in the UK had a secondary income stream. By 23, it was, can't even remember now. By the end of 25, I reckon 25 million people.
Wow.
Of the
Okay.
working population, of which there's just over 50 million, that means half the people in the UK have more than one source of income. And you just look at our economic circumstances and you go, well, yeah, because the cost of living and with
Mhm.
what's going on in the world as we do this in March 26, things are not going to get any easier. In fact, I even called it in 2021. I said this decade will be known as the Great Depression, like 100 years ago in America was called.
Mm.
COVID happened. If you look 100 years ago in history, there was the equivalent of COVID, global pandemic stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at this and going, yeah, but what's the alternatives for many people? No disrespect to Uber drivers, but they do Uber driving and you're still exchanging your time for your money. and how much you're getting paid for that. Whereas with network marketing, you can leverage your time. So there's a whole bunch of different things, and you're just looking for the people who are hardworking that feel like they're on that treadmill of life, that they're the hamster on the wheel. Do you know what I mean? And like somebody show me a way off this wheel, and that's
Hmm.
what we're doing. I'm always looking for. Here's a little escape tunnel over here. Come over
Hmm.
here, and you don't have to be on that for the rest of your life. Because I believe most people are really conscientious and hardworking. They just didn't realize there was an alternative way. And what we were taught when we were at school a few years ago, Steve,
Yeah,
um,
just a couple.
just a couple of years ago, is a broken model,
Yeah.
just a completely broken model. So that people are going to look for alternatives regardless, and then you think, well, what's the other ways? So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but
No, it's great because actually it really does sort of hammer home the point that, I love the CHAMPS acronym. It's a great acronym because actually you can sit there and you can, yeah, absolutely. Now, what's really interesting about that, if you take that CHAMPS acronym and you apply that to any micro business owner, then they need all of those skill sets to be able to be successful within what they're doing. And identifying those people and actually doing that. And when I'm working with people myself, I talk about all of those things. You have to be a self-starter to do what you do. You have to be persistent. You can't give up. And competitive, yeah, competitive. You have to be competitive with yourself. You have to drive yourself. You have to have that motivation. It's such a great acronym. Um, you're a numbers man. You
mm,
and I have had conversations about knowing numbers and that kind of thing. When you get people coming into
mm,
your business, or into sort of like your team, so to
yeah.
speak, when you get people coming into that side of things, do you talk to them about numbers and measurement? Because you're going to get people who are coming in and they might have come from a civil service background, or they might have come from education, or something where that's not business related. They may not necessarily have come from that whole KPI, looking at your KPIs and understanding what those KPIs are. So what do you do? Do you sit down with people and say, look, these are the markers that are going to help you guide, and if you set these targets, how do you go about teaching people that, those intrinsic business skills that you need to grow your business?
The wonderful thing about our business, to be fair, is over the time that I've been involved, it keeps evolving, and actually they set out milestone markers for people to achieve things. Okay, so there are bonuses for doing things in certain timescales. So we have those conversations with those people. It might not be me that's brought them, it might not be other team members, but there's a goal to attain. And just like when I did martial arts a long time ago, started a white belt, ended up black belt second dan. But like going from my white belt to my white belt yellow tip, that was the first stage. I wasn't looking at black belt. I was looking at white belt, yellow tip. And then when I got to that, I was like looking for my yellow belt. So I got to that and so on and so forth. And the company have got milestones that before you know, you're suddenly looking and going, I think I might be able to be a black belt. Oh my goodness me, how amazing would that be? Because it is, again, going back to the frog analogy, you just keep turning up and suddenly
Mhm.
it's that confidence. So the company are really good that way. If you don't reach it in the time scales that they set out, it's not that you're a failure, it's just you don't get that particular bonus. So they give you, rather than a stick, it's a carrot. The company's really, really good at giving you lots of carrots. I mean, ridiculous. I mean, when I think of all the carrots I've had, I should be fatter than Santa Claus, to be honest with you. But the company does that. So all our job is to point these out. And for those that want the carrots, we can go and get the carrots. If someone wants to go at a slower pace and doesn't want the carrot, that doesn't mean to say that they are not right. It could just be their timing. Things could be happening in their lives. So it gives them the opportunity, but there is a structure, there is a way for them to, you know, measure themselves as such. But again, it comes down to individual conversations. Everybody's different. I've got, some people who get off to amazing starts, and then I've got others that don't, and then they suddenly get going. I've got some people who've started, stopped, and restarted because life happens. And that's the beauty of this business and the downside to this business. You can pick it
Do
up and
you
stop it.
when you're doing that though, when you've got the people there, do you explain to them? So when I'm working with a client, for example, I might talk about, I don't know, let's talk about we're trying to hit a sales target.
Yep.
So what I tend to do is I tend to say to people, right, okay, you've got the sales target. If you know what your conversion rate is, if you know what your average order value is, you know how many people you need to speak to get interest, to get a sale, and all of that sort of stuff. And if you know your average order value is X, and you want to achieve £1,000, and your average order value is say 100 quid, then you need to get 10 sales. So I'll talk people through that and explain how those KPIs work. So what's the education like? So obviously you've got these targets that you
Yep.
set, or that have been set by the business, and then you've got these carrots that they get. They can do this, they can get a holiday, they can get a car, they can get all of these different things. But do you sit down and explain? Does it go into the minutiae of how you do that? What how you achieve this next milestone and everything? And do you coach people in how to do that?
Yeah. Again, I'll come down to individuals because different people want different things. So, but you can say, if you're doing outreach, what's your conversion ratio likely to be when you're brand new versus someone who's experienced? Someone who's experienced, I get referrals without having to even ask for them nowadays because people know I'm the expert in the industry. They know that, with the greatest respect, you've been doing all this length of time. You're the expert, you're the go-to person. So I don't have to do the marketing that I had to at the beginning. But when you're at the beginning, you're going to look and say, right, well, if the target is £2,000 in your first month, right? Okay, so we're looking at maybe 6 clients. If we get 6 clients, how many meetings do we need to have in order to get 6 that are going to say yes at that point in time? You know, is it 2 in 1? Is it 3 in 1? Okay, it's 3 in 1. So that means 18 meetings. Okay, so what happens to the other 12? Well, those other 12 will come along further on down the line, but you want this money now. You've just started from scratch. Nobody knows what you do. You've got to get it out there. And you go, right, okay, so I need to have 18 meetings. Or how many conversations do I need to get to 18 meetings? So for the right people, 100% you go into that. And for others, maybe less so because it just kind of, again, depends on that individual. So the right people, you can go boom, 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 boom. We call it reverse engineering. You know
Hmm.
what the outcome that you want, what's the steps you need to do. And I know with coaching that you'll be doing, that's what you do. There's your goal. Let's work it backwards.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
100% again for those that are willing to listen.
And what I'm trying to get, the thing that I hope is coming across here is the parallels between,
Mm,
and this is the point that I've always said to people, because there is I suppose there's a snobbery within the networking world that if you're running a network marketing business, it's not a proper business, which is absolute bullshit, right? Just to put it out there to start off with. But what the point that I'm trying to get across is, it doesn't matter what business you have. Actually, what you have to do is you have to do the right things. And if you don't do the right things, then things won't happen. And if you don't change, then no change will happen. And all of these kind of cliche business expressions that people come out with, but they're actually very, very true. Um, now,
It's an interesting point, Steve, because when I became a mortgage broker and I mean, I'd done mortgages and stuff like that, I had zero idea, but I had a simple Excel spreadsheet and I looked at all the areas that I was generating an income from every client that I introduced. And then if they introduce someone, the return on all of that, and I'm looking at, right, okay, so my average ticket value is about £1,000 a mortgage. Now, I wasn't making £1,000 on the mortgage, but I'm making £1,000 because of all the other bits and pieces. And then the business came in and actually suddenly that increased to £1,500 because I was able to do more in the financial services as a result of the savings that I made with what we do. And I was like, oh wow. So I was able to increase my return on my main business by over 50% per client. It's like for just doing something that was making me at that point in time next to nothing, but
mm,
increased my main business. And I would even argue, and I appreciate what you said there, I would turn around to say to every business owner at this moment in time, if you have only one source of income, here's what will happen because it happened to me. 2007, some people are too young to remember that. I was a very successful mortgage broker at that time. Okay. I
yeah,
was I was writing 5-figure monthly commissions without having to try. I didn't advertise or anything like that. I was just really good at what I did. So people referred me, referred me, referred me. And then make sure the mic picks this up correct because they might mishear this. The bankers made some bad errors. Okay. Let's just leave it like that. And suddenly the rug was pulled from underneath me. Now, I
Yeah.
wasn't given any worse or better advice. I was given the same advice I was given before. But suddenly, because the market I'd gone from 40,000 mortgage deals to 2,000 mortgage deals, and I wouldn't lend that to my worst enemy, never mind my good clients. And I was telling them
Mm.
all to stay because the rates were going to drop and drop and drop. I says, but see, when they hit the bottom, and they've got to at some point, when I say jump, I haven't got, you won't get a second chance. I will have so many customers wanting me all at the same time. I'll have to work 24/7. Genuinely,
Mhm.
I can see this happening. But I am not going to remortgage you knowing that things are coming down because intrinsically in my heart, I knew it would be the wrong thing to do. But it wasn't my fault. The bankers were, I'm careful in how I use these words here,
Yeah,
doing
I think most
things
people
that,
will accept you referring to them with a W as well.
well, possibly, okay, but they were doing things they should never have been doing. And we thought it was just the American banks, but it was intrinsically, I mean, RBS, and
They
so on and
were all
so
doing it.
forth.
Yeah.
It was like, but I was relying upon that. And there was months I wasn't making four-figure incomes. My mortgage was 2+ grand a month. Father, husband, three kids. Suddenly that changes your mindset. Now, if you think, well, that was just the mortgage market. Well, let's go back 6 years ago. This thing called COVID happened. And
Hmm.
what happened to all the businesses that were relying upon, having the general public out and about, etc.? Your rug was pulled from underneath you, and there was very little support for businesses in comparison to those employed. 9.1 million people were furloughed because they were employees, but business owners got next to nothing. So any business owner, and if I offend you, to be perfectly honest with you, it's maybe the slap across the face you actually need. If you think having just one source of income is a good thing to have nowadays, you're living in the dark ages. I firmly believe that. There's two pieces of history that prove having one source of income is dangerous, completely dangerous. And if you can put on another one that increases your profit on your main business, utopia.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a really interesting point. And the other thing that I want to go into the passive income side of
Mm,
things, because a lot of people aspire to passive income. It's something that they do. And when you do what I do, you touched on this earlier on, you're set when you were a mortgage broker, you're effectively selling your time to do what you
yep,
were doing. As a business mentor, that's exactly what, I've been doing in terms of you reach a ceiling. You can only sell so much of your time. And it's not 40 hours a week that you can sell. For the simple reason you just don't have the headspace or the concentration to be able to do that. So
yep,
you reach a ceiling and you can't go beyond that. Now, one of the big things for me is I've been looking at how I could do different things to generate passive income for myself. Business Boost Academy being case in point, and that's what happens within the business model within UW. The thing I think UW is an amazing business. I love the way that I know a lot about it. I've known a lot of people who are involved with it. The thing I love about UW is the fact that you have the selling element to it, where you can go out and sell the products that you're selling, but you also have the passive income element to it, where actually once you sell, whether it's an energy package with somebody, or you sell them the whole shebang, but also with your downline, you've got that element of passive income as well. And I think that's what UW have done really, really well. And they're very disruptive in that respect. And people talk about wanting to be involved in a disruptive business because it sounds cool and everything else. But actually, that's the thing that UW have done very, very well. They've created that passive income for their people who have been in it a long time. And I think that's really important. And what you say about having multiple streams of income, I think a lot of people aspire, particularly people who are employed for themselves, aspire to have a multiple income stream because actually that helps. But within the UW model, you do actually have a multiple income stream.
yes, absolutely. In fact, within our business model, I think there are 9 different ways you can get paid.
I
So
did nine.
nine
Wow.
different
Okay.
ways that you can get paid. I won't go into all of them, obviously, but the best analogy I can give you, right? Okay, I happen to have this book. Okay, so for those that can see, you might recognize that book. Okay, for those that are just listening, I've put Harry Potter. Not one person I've ever shown this book. Okay, by the way, I've never read Harry Potter. It's not my book. Okay, not one person has not known Harry Potter. For those that don't know J.K. Rowling's story, she lives just a few miles away from a single mum living off government benefits. She wrote the first Harry Potter book. She went to all the publishing houses. They all laughed at her, apparently, apart from one who said, "We'll give this a go." Now, what happens with that? royalties happen. So they gave her an advance of money for the book, what she'd written, and obviously she made alterations and so on and so forth. And then they realised that actually this is quite popular. I remember my stepdaughter actually queuing up at 12 o'clock at night at our local supermarket to go and get a copy of the first Harry Potter. I think it was the first, might have been the second, whatever, okay? Now, what happened is she wrote 7 Harry Potters and obviously went into the films and all the rest of it. She became a billionaire, not because of the amount of money she was advanced, that helped her with today, but actually the royalties from every book that's been sold, every time the movie is, and all the goods that are sold behind that. And that's what we do with this business is we give people an upfront amount of money to help with today, but they also get a recurring income for what they've done in the past. So next month, I will get paid the 240th time on the first people I actually helped save money on their bills. Let that sink in 240 times. And I only have to do the job once. No different than J.K. Rowling. She wrote each one of the books once and she's not had to rewrite them. I don't know she's done others, but just to use that as an example, you go, yeah. When I heard about UW, for bearing in mind, I had been a financial advisor, there was a few things that just went off in my mind. Bearing in mind, they weren't even supposed to be speaking to me. They weren't even in the room to talk to me. I wasn't even supposed to be listening. I could have been out on an appointment and never heard it. I just in the right place. But a few things, it's like this recurring income in the future. So I'm like, well, I'm self-employed. I know I need to put money into my pension, but cash flow is king. In any business, cash flow is king. I had a really good pension for when I worked in the bank, but I know I need to pay for the future. But then I thought, if they're going to give me a recurring income, a percentage of the profits the company makes in the future, instead of the fat cat making all the money, the actual person who done the work gets a percentage of that bill for as long as people pay bills. That's like having like a pension style income, which is just money in the future for what you did in the past. That's what a pension is, really. Okay, if you break it down, going, well, that's kind of the same with this. I'll get paid in the future for work I did in the past. So I could be getting income in my 40s and my 50s higher than most people ever get in their 60s. And by the way, I can confirm that to be the case because most people are going into an Armageddon when they get to retirement because they don't have sufficient provisions by any stretch of the imagination. I thought, so if I just help people save money, I'll have a lifestyle that most people can't have in my 40s and 50s that some people aspire to get to their 60s and find out they can't even have. Tick. Then I was thinking of recurring income again. If I'm ill, then I'm making no money doing my business unless I have an insurance policy that pays out. Okay. And most business owners don't, by the way. They should, but they don't. Okay. So if I'm ever ill, then that money's going to continue to come in, even though I'm not writing mortgages. That's a clever thing. That's just strategic. That's just sensible. And then the third thing they said, and it was a throwaway comment in the middle of a conversation, they said it's a willable business. I was like, whoa, you've got me. It was like the cherry on top of the cake. So when I die, which will obviously eventually happen, but I'll be the first person to live forever, not.
Clearly.
Um, my wife gets all the income that's produced every single month. And when she's not here, it goes to my kids. I've now got a granddaughter as well, so it'll pass on to her and any future grandkids as well. And like, from a responsibility point of view, I have to do this for my family. I have to put in the effort to build this income so we can have more free time to do what we want, go on all the, you know me, I like going on holidays and stuff like that, to have that free time whilst we've got the time. What's the point waiting until you're nearly 70 to start suddenly living your life? When, with the greatest respect, your health is not going to be as good as it is in your 40s or your 50s.
Yeah.
But then to be able to leave a legacy for your family, wow. And that's what drives me today is, I'm thinking about my granddaughter's grandkids, how I
Yeah.
can leave such a big income that is divisible by everyone, that makes a meaningful difference, that they can make a decision what they do in their lives. They might never need to work and they might be able to give their time philanthropically because they're not chasing the paycheck because they know they've got the income coming in that can therefore allow them to make a difference. That's what drives me. So when we talk about the income, there's the upfront money that helps you today and the recurring income, but there are other parts to it as well. That's what attracted me to this business.
Yeah. It's like I say, if you've not looked into UW and you are looking at doing something for yourself and you're watching this video and you're thinking, do you know what I could do with something doing part time? It is a fantastic model. and actually it works very, very well for a lot of people. Spencer is one of several people I know who do exceptionally well out of UW and lead a good lifestyle as a result of it. And like you say, it's willable for your family and everything else.
Yep.
So going on to challenges.
No, there's none of them. It's plain sailing. You just join and suddenly you're a billionaire.
Fantastic. We'll end it here. Going on to challenges and that sort of thing, particularly business challenges.
Hmm.
Um, what sort of what sort of challenges do you see your partners come across on a regular basis, and how do they overcome them? And what advice do you give to them to overcome them? There must be a
Oh,
fairly consistent challenge that they receive.
yeah. I mean, when you first start out, is the expectation that when you realize that this is a no-brainer. I mean, who wants to pay more on their bills? I mean, if you said to a survey of 100 people, would you like to pay more or less for your bills? You would think everyone would say less. There are some people out there that say, no, I'm not sure. I think I might want to pay more. Okay, I could say something else, but like you leave those people alone. Those are the sorts of people you just like,
Hmm.
I'll step over here, okay? But you naturally assume your friends and your family are instantly going to go, well, yeah, totally, that makes 100% sense. And the challenge some of the new people have is they don't have enough belief in themselves or the business yet that when they hear other people not saying yes, and they go, well, why wouldn't you? Because it made sense. Oh, maybe I've made a mistake. Maybe this isn't what I thought it was. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe, and what happens is that demon that's in your head, that subconscious, because at some point in the past something happened in your life that meant that you think you're not destined to be successful, kicks in
Hmm.
kicks in and you're like, oh well, maybe not. And they don't even get over the first hurdle. If you're looking at the athletics, the 110-meter hurdles, they sometimes don't get over the first hurdle, which is they can't accept the rejection from people that know, like, and trust, and think, well, if they're not going to say yes, strangers aren't going to say yes. Here's the truth. Some strangers are way more empathetic than your close loved ones. But as I say to all of them, here's the truth. My mum didn't sign up straight away. Okay. It took a little while. I'm the only child. Okay. And my mum is that a really super helpful person. She didn't sign up straight away, but she eventually did. And my mum and dad, my dad's no longer with us, my mum and dad joined the team. So not only did they not become my first customer, they actually ended up joining the team because over time they went, yeah, well, I can see you're more serious about this. Many people in life have done something and quit far too early in life. Yep. And that people subconsciously pick up and think it's just a fad. You're just going to give up. So what's the point in coming along? So that's the first hurdle that they have, as such. But there's lots of different hurdles out there. People going, oh, this, that, and the next thing. Oh, well, over here you can do this, and over here you can do that. But when you realize what you're actually part of, and you look at, I like numbers, so I'm going to throw this one in here, okay? How much do you think the music industry turns over globally per year? Roughly how
No
much do you
idea.
think? Okay,
No idea.
31.7 billion US dollars, music industry. Would you say the
Right.
music industry is well known?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. The movie industry and streaming, okay, so films and streaming, I mean, everyone, who's all got like a million streaming applications, 112 billion US dollars. You combine the two of them together, that's $144 billion in sales a year. Network marketing is 183 billion.
Wow.
Put that into perspective.
Yeah.
So what we do is bigger than the music and movie industry combined.
Hmm.
But because negative naysayers who don't know enough might just chip away at our newer team members and go, why are you doing that thing? They start to believe that. But then you
Hmm.
go, well, actually, hold on a second. Have people in the music industry done well? Yeah. Is there lots of people in the music industry not made any money? Yep. Okay. Is there people in the film industry that have done really well and others that haven't done well? Yes. Guess what? It's the same in our profession. But it doesn't mean to say that it's not right. So it, the biggest demon is what the 6 inches there, because our subconscious is got one thing to do: protect us. That is it.
Mhm.
Our subconscious is to protect us. And when we start going outside of our comfort zone, we're starting to go into an area where the subconscious goes, oh, hold on a second, that could be dangerous. That served us when we lived in the caves and we're looking for the saber-toothed tigers. But
Mhm.
nowadays, that programming is no good for us. And those that can overcome that quicker get to where they want to be quicker. So
Yeah.
the biggest hurdle is genuinely the 6 inches between people's ears and
I think
helping
that's the
with
same.
that.
I think that's the same with business, with
Of course it
everything in
is.
business. It's that 6 inches between your ears. And who it was Arnold Palmer, I think it was. Arnold Palmer once said, he said, what's the most difficult shot in golf? And he said, it's the 6 inches between your ears. But actually, it's everything. It goes through. So, as you know, I work with a lot of people and help them with sales,
Yes.
and everybody just turns around and says, I can't sell. And you can sell. You just tell yourself you can't sell. And we are our own worst saboteurs in terms of the things that we do. And I'm a big fan of the Stephen Bartlett podcast, Diary of a CEO. I think it's fantastic. He has some amazing conversations on there. And there was a conversation he was having with somebody, I can't remember who it was with, but he was talking about imposter syndrome. And
Hmm.
imposter syndrome has become a thing now, hasn't it? It's imposter syndrome. It's got a real negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
And actually, it's not. It's about taking yourself outside of your comfort zone. And if you say to people, you'll never grow unless you go outside of your comfort zone. So what you have to do is you have to put that imposter syndrome to one side to make sure that you do that. And if you're willing to grow and you're willing to listen and you're willing to learn, then that's something that people do. I'm going to touch on the subject of books, right?
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So a lot of people who are working for themselves, by themselves, whatever, they bury their head in business books and that kind of thing. What books would you recommend to read for people to take away? I did say
Oh,
this was never going to be easy.
oh my
Is,
goodness
is
me.
there is there if there's one book in particular
Oh,
that you could sit there and you could go, do you know what? This book made a difference to my life. What would that be?
now you've put that question slightly down. You had me panicking there, thinking there's so many different books. But the one book that made me realize that the decision I thought I had made 21 years ago was the right decision and changed my mindset was Robert Kiyosaki. So Kiyosaki is spelled Kiyossaki, Robert Kiyosaki. And most people know him for his Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay. And his series is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's not the one. That's not the one that I'm referring to. It's a thing called the cash flow quadrant. Okay. Now, bearing in mind, I was a financial advisor. I was giving advice to people about investments and pensions and stuff. And when I read this book, it just changed my mindset completely. The synopsis of it is if you take four quadrants, okay? So piece of paper, line down, line across, four quadrants. On the top left-hand side, he has the letter E, which stands for employee. Bottom left-hand side is S for self-employed or specialist. Top right is B for big business, and bottom right is I for investor. So ESBI. On the left-hand side of that piece of paper, you're always exchanging your time for money. Always. Whereas on the right-hand side, you're not exchanging time for money any longer. So if you want true financial freedom, you need to be on the right-hand side of this piece of paper, and you're like, oh my goodness me, why have I, I've done my financial services exams. How have I not seen that? I mean, at that point in time, I'd gone from employee to self-employed, and this is the point I want to make. So when I gone from employee to self-employed and I no longer had the politics to worry about, just look after my clients, I thought, I've made it in life. I've made it in life. I'm now able to control my complete own destiny. But here's the reality. When you're an employee, it's seen as the safe route. You'd show me employment that's safe these days, other than maybe undertakers, because there's only two things certain like death and taxes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. But even undertakers, your job's still not secure. There's no such thing as job security. That's a thing of the past. Okay. So you pay the highest level of taxation as an employee. And I knew that. So when I went down to self-employed, I thought I keep more of my own money because the system is designed that way to encourage people to be entrepreneurial. but I'm still exchanging time for money. As you said earlier on, there's only so many hours you can put in a week. There's 168 hours, and if you worked every single hour of it, that's where your cap is. Okay, and I know some people worked 120 plus hours a week. Literally, they worked, eat for 2 minutes, sleep at some point, and take it from there. But if you go to the right hand side, and B was a big business, and Robert's definition is if you've got over 500 people in your organization. So in other words, you don't need to be there for it to turn over the business. And I went, oh, so I've gone from E to S. I've got some investments. I had some shares, got property, but actually, I want to be more on the right hand side. I want to have a big business. I want to have not employees, because with the greatest will in the world, with all the regulations and all the red tape and all the rest of it, why would I want employees? That's just like managing again, and I've had my fair share of that. But if I have 500 people or more in my organization that are all going towards a common goal, that's going to give me the time freedom and the financial security for my family. So I want to be on the right hand side, be and then also I investor. So that 100% changed my mindset that just being self-employed was not the way I wanted to be. And it took that one book to just change things completely.
It's a fantastic story that you had that, I suppose, eye-opening moment that was that thing that changed the way that you do stuff. So we've been on for an hour. I like to try and keep these things for about an hour. I know time has flown. I like to close with one question, and I like to do this every time. I like to ask people this same question every time. What is the one best piece of advice Spencer of 2026 could give Spencer of 1995?
That is actually a really easy question.
Okay.
Believe.
Wow.
Believe, believe, believe. If you look at the word believe, in the middle of the word believe or belief is the word lie, Lie. And whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can or can't, it doesn't matter. Either way, it's a lie. Because until it starts to happen, it's a lie. Whatever you tell yourself is a lie until it actually happens, and then it becomes reality. And whatever you perceive your reality to be will eventually become your reality. And it's taken me my lifetime to really get my head around that. Serving in, you go 1995, I would have been, oh my goodness me, wow, gosh, when I really think back to how old I was then, what I was doing, is actually you're more impactful than you possibly believe at this moment in time. Your heart is there to help others, but if you don't believe in yourself quickly enough, you will not have the impact on others. So 100% believe that you will make a difference, because you are going to make a difference. But if you do it quicker, you'll have a bigger impact.
It's a great word, because my youngest son, he's just turned 25, and he's running his own business, has been running his own business for the last 3 years, and the self-belief that he has is phenomenal. And if you could take that self-belief then and bottle it and sell it, it would be incredible. It's just a thing. The last thing I want to say is, as well, you touched on persistence and persistence and persistence and persistence. And if you couple that persistence with belief and you add those two things together, you will get success. Because no matter what business that you run, you look at all of these successful business leaders. You can take your Bransons, your Alan Sugars, your Stephen Bartlett's, whoever they would be, these people who have built mega successful businesses. It's not their first go. It's not their first rodeo. And actually, they will have had failed ventures all over the place. Somebody would have come to them with an idea. They'd have gone with that idea, and that wouldn't necessarily have worked. But actually, it's a big thing. It's that persistence to keep going and keep making things work. And actually, it will happen. And I think that's something. If there's anything you want to take away from this conversation, belief and persistence, they are the two big things. Spencer, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, and if anybody wants to get into contact you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, listen, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. It's a privilege to be on and share just some different things. And just as you're talking there, I'm going to go off and fail. Take the word fail, Fail, first attempt
Attempt in
in
learning.
learning. Okay. Thomas Edison, who's allegedly the person that invented the incandescent light bulb, he took over 1,000 attempts. So that means he failed 990 odd thousand
Yeah,
plus times to get, and now we don't even use his light bulbs because we have LEDs. So he
yeah.
was pretty successful, to be fair. If anyway, I'm going off on one. So failure is only final if you let it become
I
fun.
totally agree with
Yeah,
that. And a first attempt in learning is something that I say to people as well. Failure is a
brilliant.
word that I don't like. And your second attempt in learning, you're sailing.
Oh, I like that one.
Well,
I'll
you
remember
can have
that
that,
one.
mate.
Thank
You can
you.
have that. I'll let
Oh,
you have that
brilliant,
one.
brilliant. To answer your question, I'm on the various social medias, timewealthcreator.com. I'm on, don't really go much on Instagram, to be fair, but you can find me on YouTube. You can find me, just put in timewealthcreator.com. You'll find me that way. I'm on LinkedIn. If you can't find the name Spencer Thompson and Time Wealth Creator, respectfully, you're not going to get very far in life. I will appear quite quickly, shall we say. It's great
And
having an unusual first name, shall we say. It can
yeah,
also be a, you know.
pain in the backside. Yeah. I will, as I always do, at the end of this, I will put the links up on the final screen as well, so people will see those. Spencer, it's been a pleasure, and I can't believe it's been an hour and a bit, but there you go. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.